from the heart. Stories honest and true. The one, the only. The Human Canvas You. Hello and welcome to The Human Canvas, the podcast where we explore our unique lived experiences, exploring the lives of people from all walks, diving into their unique journeys, their challenges, their passions, and the moments that have shaped who they are today. I'm your host, Nicholas Graham Hall, and today I'm honored to welcome to the podcast writer, community organizer, and mental health professional, Laura LaSuertmer. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Nicholas.
Awesome to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you a chance to share your bio and introduce yourself to all the listeners, but I think it's important for everyone to know that how I first got to know you was, I think you were I was probably asking, does anybody know who sells fresh eggs? Because it was whatever, 2000, say it's 2021, 19, but we're in the 21st century. And you can actually have eggs dropped off. I'm like, that is a beautiful thing. And, laid right here locally. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Like a throwback to milk on the front porch almost.
Right? That's exactly what I was thinking. So, and you had some of your chickens ran into some,
Yeah. Ran into
yeah,
some mouths.
right. And now you're back. So I'm enjoying your amazing eggs once again. But again, thank you for being here. And if you could just take a minute to sort of share with people a little bit about your background and what we're going to be talking about today.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for inviting me into this conversation. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm 42, so there's been a lot of life thus far. But perhaps most relevant is I do live on a small community farm, common home farm, which is where all those chickens live, and which provides a lot of garlic out in the community as well. And we've been here for about 6 years, and it's a community farm. So part of the reason we exist is to bring people together doing work with plants and seeds and animals. So that's one aspect of my life. The other very relevant right this moment is I just finished a degree in mental health counseling last week. And so,
oh, wow. Congratulations. I knew you
yeah.
were.
Yeah, I presented my hour-long capstone project, and it was well received. And so I'm sort of pivoting from the work. I do work with Women Writing for a Change, currently part-time, facilitating creative writing circles and leading our outreach programs. And I'll be doing that for a while longer, but also sort of planning to pivot to more maybe 3/4 time work, seeing clients and doing psychotherapy. And I'm the mother of two amazing children, 10-year-old Leo and 13-year-old Alice, lights of my life. And I'm married to David, and also the light of my life. So,
well, and I shared with you, Laura, that I was at one of the events in downtown Bloomington, and I'm just walking along, and your son Leo, hey, Nicholas. And I was like, oh man, that's pretty awesome. What is he, 10, 12? How old is he?
10. Yeah,
10,
he's
yeah.
10.
For a 10-year-old to have that, just the presence and confidence just to say hello to an adult, it's pretty cool. So I
Yeah.
should be awfully proud. I did in particular, the Writing for a Change. I mean, that's, it's an organization that I've learned about here in Bloomington. I'd love for you to be able to share more about that. It's something that I know that I've shared with female friends that I know, shared an interest in writing or going through, a stage or process in their life. It seems that that's a really supportive environment for both.
Yes.
Maybe if you could share a little bit more about Women Writing for a Change.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're a local arts nonprofit that is designed to facilitate connection with others and connection with self through writing. Our creative writing circles they have a lot of ritual to them. I mean, part of why they work so well is because we're paying attention to creating a sacred space, and the kinds of things that can arise in a very intentionally held space, I think, are very different than our normal lives, where we're kind of running through to-do lists, or it makes it easier for us to get into deeper parts of ourselves. So we're facilitating spaces like that with poetry, writing prompts, and small groups that meet during the class time, where we can read our writing to one another out loud, and then hear the feedback our group members might have for us, sort of based on what we ask them to listen for in a piece.
So is it less about what I hear from that? It's really less about I'm at this level of a writer and I want to become, or I have a book inside me and I want to get it
Mhm.
out. Is it really
Yeah.
more about the therapeutic nature of writing itself? Or is there any, I guess, blend of that with just improving
Yeah.
your, ability to craft a story?
Yeah, it's both. And it largely depends on what people are coming into the space for. Some people do come. I came to it because as a writer, with story ideas, and leaving sort of the academic writing and knowing I had a love of writing, but really needing like some structure and support and accountability around um, crafting those stories. So you can show up to your small group with a piece of writing you've been working on and say, I want this kind of technical feedback. But you can also show up to class with no writing, generate writing during the class that's more reflective or journaling, and then ask your small group to reflect on maybe the feelings they heard in the piece. So it's kind of a template for whatever you want to bring. And we have a variety of classes. So, like, I think Amy Cornell and Mary Beth just led one that was focused on memory, memoir, and family lore. And
Mm,
Amy just finished an MFA. And so she has had a lot of resources to support people who were working in that genre.
yeah,
Um, so it can be both. I
yeah.
think we are really good at nurturing voice. And so
Mm,
for writers who maybe have encountered a lot of red ink or criticism,
yeah,
this is not that. This is a place where we want to hear what you have to say, and we're going to support it as you find
yeah.
your voice. Yeah.
And when was the organization founded?
I think it was 2004.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've been
Yeah.
like a long time. Beth Lodge Regal started the school here, and she was trained by Mary Pierce Brosmer in Cincinnati, Ohio. So that's where, and Mary Pierce Brosmer started Women Writing for a Change in Cincinnati.
I was
Um,
going to ask if organizations like this exist in other
yeah.
locations.
There's a few, and it's sort of, I think Dayton, Ohio, and Jacksonville, Florida, were two other places. And again, it's like women who've gone to be trained in Cincinnati and then decide to start a school, open a
Yeah,
school,
yeah,
and offer these kinds of classes.
yeah.
Um, and I should say this coming spring, me and Mary Beth and Denise, were the three staff people. Mary Beth's our creative director, are leading the conscious feminine leadership training. So it's an in-depth dive that all our facilitators have to go through. It's a
Mm,
it's a semester class and a couple retreats to learn about how do we lead from within? How do we hold space for the emotional um, work that people are going to do in a writing circle or might do? How do we hold space for the diverse people who might show up? And we do that in part by knowing ourselves really, really well.
mm.
So yeah, that's coming up, and that's something our organization offers every couple of years.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I also became familiar with the work that the organization is doing in the local within the local county jail
Mm-hmm.
system, if that's correct. And then
Yeah.
you individually are doing similar work at the federal
Mm-hmm.
level.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm really interested to really dive deeper into those programs. And you started to educate me a little bit on the difference between a jail and a prison. So I want you to share that with for all of the listeners because I
Sure.
certainly had I didn't understand the distinction or the difference. I want to preface by saying I routinely think to myself, what are things that we humans are doing today
Mm.
that if there are humans like 1,000, some
Hmm.
way time out in the future, they'll look back and go, what on earth what were they thinking?
Yeah.
I think the whole
Yeah.
idea of prisons
Yeah.
and not understanding the systematic situation of where a human comes into being,
Oh my God.
what that has to do with their their path and all these
Mm.
rules that we have created that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like who knows what kind of insurance they have until they
Right.
run into an issue, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like who knows what all the different rules,
Mm-hmm.
laws, and regulations, and so many
Mm-hmm.
people are just like it is just set
Mm-hmm.
it's just set up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feel so
Yeah.
anyhow, I do I I absolutely think prison
Yeah.
is one of those things where it's just like what in
Yeah.
the world? And obviously, and the work that you all are doing are trying to help these, fellow humans that are in this particular
Mm-hmm.
predicament with,
Mm-hmm.
well, I want you to share about it, but I gather it's like how to find a different narrative, a different story for yourself, given the place where
Yeah.
they find themselves is my sense as an observer from the outside,
Mm-hmm.
but I really want to hear more about the program before help everybody understand the difference between a jail and a prison before
Sure.
we yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So, the jail is a place that the county runs, where they hold people who have been charged with crimes in the county. So if you were arrested in Monroe County, charged with a crime in Monroe County, and you can't buy your way out, you can't post bail for whatever reason, and then you sit in county jail awaiting your court date, which could be a month later, could be several months later. Could be, multiple court dates. It's also,
Another example of the system, right?
oh yeah,
Those
yeah.
with or without resources, but yeah.
Well, and yes, it's also where you go if you violate probation. So maybe you already have been sentenced, you've been sentenced to a certain amount of time on probation. Maybe you have to show up to drug testing every day and you don't show up or you fail the drug test. You go back to county to finish out your term or to go before the judge again,
Yeah.
to figure out what's happening next. It can be where if you've been sentenced, you might be sentenced to a certain amount of time in state prison for whatever crime you were charged with, and then you await in county jail until they're ready to take you. You go to, I think it's even called like RDIC, receiving and I don't know, it's some sort of like shipping term. But you go to a temporary prison and then they send you off to whichever prison you're going to within the state. Um, so yeah, the prisons then are run by the state and federal government for folks who have been convicted of a crime. So the guy I visit in Terre Haute, he's at the federal prison, the United States Penitentiary, because he was charged at the federal level for it was like a kidnapping that resulted in death, and it crossed state lines. So this
Mm.
happened in I think he was in Georgia, and they crossed state lines into Tennessee. And that made it a federal charge. And he's on death row. So the federal death row for the whole United States, for anybody charged with a federal crime and convicted to death or sentenced to death, is in Terre Haute right now, which is, an hour and a half
Really?
from Bloomington.
Huh.
Yeah. And there are, I think it's 37 people on death row right now. We also have death row, a state death row, which is in Michigan City, and which our governor has, I think last December was the first time that there had been a state execution in quite a while, but they've resumed capital punishment here in Indiana. I think there was another one a month ago or so. So that's
Is capital punishment a state by, and if any of this stuff is like, I'm not sure, you feel free to be like,
yeah. Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But is capital punishment like state by state? You
So
know,
probably, I think at the state level it is, but as at the federal level,
if
we
you
do.
crossed over into the federal, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Hmm.
Hmm. So, so that's a little bit of the difference. At the local jail, by and large, the people who are held there, are people who are impoverished or who have lived in poverty most of their lives. And most of the crimes are sort of the result of that poverty,
Mhm.
and the psychological toll that poverty has taken on people,
Yeah.
including mostly drugs, probably domestic violence, theft, things like that. And so the guys that come to our writing circles, there's various levels of security, but this is like the medium level or the low level of security. It's a choice. We go every Tuesday morning, and we see folks from A block and B block. Whoever answers the call, the guard goes to the door and shouts out creative writing.
And
And
is this for men and women?
so Tuesdays we do a writing circle with men, and then every other Saturday we do one with the women.
Got it. And when did the writing program begin?
So Beth, who founded Women Writing for a Change, also, I think within the first or second year of opening the school, started the Women's Creative Writing Circle. So it's been going for over 20 years. Pretty nonstop, even through COVID. We did sort of a pen pal exchange. Lauren Bryant led that up and sent poetry and prompts back and forth. So yeah, that's been very consistent. And then the men's circle really started when I got involved. I had joined a circle with women writing in 2009 and started volunteering in the women's circle. And then sort of on my own with my husband and some other folks from the Catholic Worker, we were doing a class at the jail. And over time, as I became more involved with women writing, that class kind of morphed into a men's writing circle, which is now officially a women writing offering. And it's been on Tuesdays for years. And I think, since 2010, basically that's been going. And one of the things I most love about it is, I guess, the way that whatever stereotype you might want to put on a man who's incarcerated, this just blows it out of the water. These folks just show up with such tenderheartedness and such willingness to be authentic with one another and to talk about the pain that they carry. And it's just always a transformative time for me and for them. So it's continued. Yeah, it's very energizing.
Do you do you see many of the same individuals show up? Of course, you don't know when they may go home or be transitioned
Right.
somewhere else. So
Yeah, yeah. That is one of the strange things about this circle. It is very transitory.
yeah,
Uh, we do see repeat people. And in fact, prior to working at Women Writing, I worked for a while as a caseworker at Beacon at the day shelter. And people still regularly are like, "Hey, I remember, you were the caseworker from there." And
yeah.
um, yeah, yeah, we do. Sadly, we see quite a
Yeah.
number of repeat people.
Or even week in and week out. I mean, if people,
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah, once people come, they're like coming back,
yeah,
is yeah. We had I think he was, if you remember from Harvest of Voices, the women writing event, we showed some videos from our writers in the jail, and one of them, Michael Johnson, sadly was in there on a probation violation, but I don't know the ins and outs of his case, but he
yeah,
was there for, I want to say like a year and a half, might have been 2 years. It was a very long time. But he came to every writing circle and he
mhm,
wrote the most amazing stories and poetry. They always had a rhythm and the descriptions, like I'm still remembering his belt buckle knees and um just yeah, he was there consistently, and then he was this great mentor to the other writers, the new writers. It's always helpful to have somebody who's familiar
yeah.
with the process and who shows up unafraid to be themselves and to read their writing out loud. And so shout out to him. He's moved on, but which is great. But he was
Yeah.
a
So
pillar.
I was curious if are there any paths, and it's for anyone that's moved by their participation.
Mhm.
Is there any like, hey, when you get out of the joint,
Totally. Yeah, I'm always, when I started the outreach coordinator job that I do, my
yeah,
vision was always that people from our outreach programs could just incorporate into the regular semester long classes that we offer. Um, but functionally it doesn't work. There
yeah,
may be some cultural divide there, but there's also sort of the circumstances of people's lives,
yeah.
and the way that poverty, it's just like a grind, like,
They're probably completely, if they like when they're actually in jail
yes,
and there's an opportunity to write. I mean, that's
yeah,
what there is an opportunity to do at that moment.
exactly.
There isn't actually the distraction of survival.
Mhm. Right, right, precisely. Yeah, it is for some people the first time that or not the first, maybe not the first time, but an important time of slowing down and reflecting. And I think that's why we consistently see such, I don't know, authenticity and vulnerability and transformation in that space because um, they're hungry for it. They've got
Yeah,
all this time. Their survival needs are met. They're contemplating what's happening, what might
yeah,
lie ahead. And so it's it's uh it's a great thing it's a useful time for them in a way
yeah.
with these prompts and writing.
What is it? Are you familiar with what it takes to actually introduce a program
Mm,
like these into the system?
yeah.
And
Hmm.
what does it take to get the the okay to be able to actually
Yeah.
enter in there and host, and be
Hmm.
you in that circle? I imagine
Do you
there's
mean kind of administratively, or
yeah,
do you mean?
I'm just kind of
Yeah.
curious. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if they're getting, I don't know if the system is getting like
Yeah, it's been interesting. So, I don't know if you're familiar with New Leaf, New Life,
Mm-mm.
but a legend in this community, Hal Taylor, among others, he was an Episcopal pastor. Him and a few other folks, he's passed away, started this organization specifically to get programming in the jail. And also, they have a facility, they have like a drop in center that's on South Walnut. So, folks who are getting out have
Mm.
resources, casework, stuff like that. So for a long time, they kind of held the relationship with the jail administration and made it possible for programming to happen. Specifically, they had a block, a designated block that was sort of a therapeutic community. Like there was a lot of research at the time that better rehabilitation happens. You know, when you have more programming, you have folks who are intentionally together because they want to work through their addictions or other things like that. And so New Leaf, New Life facilitated the programming in that block. And that's where I initially volunteered.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's all shifted over the last, I don't know, like 7, 8 years. And New Leaf, New Life still sort of helps groups come into the jail. Middle Way House has a program they run there.
Yeah.
There's a GED class. Um, there's I want to say there was like an IU professor doing linguistics at some point. So it's not all that hard, I think, especially right now because the Ruben Marte, the sheriff, his administration is the best administration I've ever seen in the jail. They are very cooperative with volunteers. There used to be a lot of antagonism from
Gotcha.
the administration towards uh, the programming. I'm not entirely sure why, but
Yeah.
he's really dedicated to the dignity of the people who are there and, um, worked with us and Curtis Chrysler to
Yeah.
put on this incredible event. And yeah, so the administratively, it's not that hard. I just had to have a background check. All our volunteers just have to have a background check.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah, it's not so daunting.
Onerous. It's probably more challenging finding people that are
Mm.
willing to take the time and to do the work that you guys are doing and the recognition
Yeah.
difference
Yeah,
that
I
can.
mean, that's not been too hard either. I
Oh,
think
good.
in this town, people have a heart for it and
Yeah.
are actually very
For those
curious, like
listening,
you.
we're in Bloomington, Indiana. For those that that are
Yeah.
listening, and this certainly is a town that has a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Tries to put a lot of resources
Hmm.
towards those that need them. With the So you've got the program that we've been talking about specifically that's hosted by Women Writing for a Change within the local county
Hmm.
jail. But then
Hmm.
there's the work that you're also doing individually
Right.
at the federal prison.
Hmm.
And was that a natural, and you could certainly want you to be able to share more about that, but was that a sort of just a natural
Mm.
development or outreach or growth from the work you were doing
Yeah.
with the jail? And just curious what kind of
Hmm.
um, led you toward that particular path. That seems to be more of a more individual versus
Right.
organizational. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I knew Bill Breeden and at the time Ross Martini Eiler, some friends who were um, acting as minister of record, which is sort of the spiritual advisor for two people on death row in Terre Haute. Um, so I knew them, and
Can
yeah,
you
my
say
experience.
can you say more about that? You mentioned spiritual advisor.
Mhm.
What maybe
That's
I've
the
heard
role.
that.
That's the role I'm in for my for the person that I visit on death row. Like
So
that, the
is
technical term is minister of record. So anybody who's on death row can ask to have a minister who can come and visit them once a month.
And do you know if that's at the federal and state level or?
I don't know how it works at the
Yeah,
state level. I mean, every prison has a chaplain who kind of
yeah,
oversees religious services. Why death row inmates also have this minister of record, I'm not sure, and
yeah.
I don't actually know if anybody in state prison has that same. I though if I were to make a hypothesis, so folks on death row have a lot more restrictions for visitors than does the normal population. So like
Okay.
Rajan, who I visit, is not allowed to have a visit with anybody who he didn't know prior to his crime. And he was 18 when he committed his crime, and he's 40 now. So you can imagine how limiting that is, right, for who can come visit him. Um, but he can have a minister of record. Um,
And they're allowed to have one?
yes, I think they have just one. Yeah, and
Is it like an annual renewable contract or how's like how
I
does that
haven't,
work?
I knock on wood, I haven't had to renew anything. So, but I did have to apply, and I had
Huh.
to, I'm a member of a small church, Sacred Heart. And because of the work I'd done in the jail, um, I was able to show that I was a lay minister, a lay prison
Oh,
minister, and I had the
right.
backing of my church and they
Yeah.
contacted my pastor.
Yeah.
So there was some vetting process there. But luckily they accepted me.
Yeah. And how um did you apply and
hmm
then you were available to be the minister of record for someone or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I think what happened was I had talked to Bill about it. So he was already visiting. He visits a guy named Chad Folks. Um, and Bill saw Rajan, who's the guy I visit. And I
Yeah.
think Bill asked him, "Do you have a minister of record?" And I
Mm,
think he said no. And he's like, "I've got somebody for you." And so I think he did the matchmaking, and maybe Ray
gotcha.
John requested one or requested me, but I didn't really know that at the time. I didn't, yeah, I had no idea who I was going to be kind of assigned to.
And is Bill still, you mentioned his name, is he still leading?
Yeah.
Is this held by a particular, is he like leading an organization that uh,
No, it's just well, yeah, no, it's just individuals. He was a UU minister, but this was just work he did on his own, and he's done it for 20 years or more. Um,
gotcha.
Bill Breeden. He speaks a lot about the death penalty publicly, and actually when Biden was considering the clemency for or commuting the sentences of the folks on death row before he left office, Bill Breeden traveled with a handful of people to meet with people in his administration about that, advocating for that. So
And
he's quite involved.
and how long have you been the minister of record for Rajan? Is that
Yeah, Rajan.
Rajan? Yeah.
It has been. I think I started seeing him in either 2021 or 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. So not super long. Um, but enough, and especially, man, during Biden's last months and then the incoming Trump administration, it's a really tumultuous time for all the folks on death row. I don't know if you want me to speak to that at all, but
Yeah, you're more than welcome to. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, just briefly, and Rajan has written a lot about this, and maybe if I can drop some links to
Yeah.
articles that
Yeah.
he's written. He's an incredible writer. Um, but essentially, he calls them the political 37. So there are 37 people on death row who were um, granted clemency from Biden, which meant that they were supposed to be sort of reassessed and then sent to different prisons to finish out they were going to get new sentences. They would be resentenced to a certain amount of time in prison. Maybe some people would have life in prison. I don't know. But basically death row, except for 3 guys who didn't apply, I believe, or just their sentences weren't commuted. And those are people who've committed mass shootings, basically. Dylan Roof, Sam Barrett, I think, and I forget the other person. Anyway, not to get lost in the weeds, but when Trump took office, he issued an executive order saying that, okay, if we can't kill these people because Biden granted them clemency, we're going to hold them in conditions that are commiserate to the crimes they committed. So essentially, and that's the wording in the executive order, we're going to torture them. Please, Attorney General Pam Bondi, please enforce this executive order. And so their plan has been to move those 37 people to America's Supermax prison in Colorado, in Florence, Colorado. It's called the ADX, where people are held in cells and there's no human contact, basically. Like guards are through TV, visits are through TV. There's a very restricted phone calls. I don't know if there's email. But it's like the worst kind of isolation, and typically that's been reserved for people in prisons who are extreme violent threats to other people, or to even, I think, some international terrorists may be held there, maybe domestic terrorists. But you have to meet a certain criteria to be sent there.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is they've tried to show that all 37 of these people meet that criteria with these sort of sham interviews and assessments. And the last time I met Rajon last month, he was saying he thought they could be moved at any time. He was hearing rumors about guards having to find new work or new positions in the prison, and buses arriving, but they haven't been moved yet. And there's a lawsuit that he's participating in with the ACLU to stop the government from moving them. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and I think for Rajon and others, there's a question of, would it be better if I just kill myself now instead of go to that place? Because it's the only way Rajon survives what he survives, which is already solitary, is to have phone calls and emails and communication and actual contact with people.
So he's in permanent solitary confinement?
Yeah, so everybody on death row is in solitary confinement. He works as an orderly, which means he does some of the labor on the floor in terms of cleaning. So he has more movement than most people. But yeah, it's solitary. Their windows have been like frosted over, so there's not even like a view of outside. No access to actual earth, no access to it. Yeah, and he's been living that way for a very long time. Yeah. Primarily because he has cultivated friendships and relationships with folks on the outside. And just people's voices nourish him in ways that maybe most of us aren't even attuned to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, that's.
How has this work impacted you?
Oh, that's a good question. It's hard to, I think it's hard to say sometimes. I know it impacts me a lot because I dream about it. I've had multiple dreams of being confined with him. And I think that just being in that space, just going to the prison, walking those corridors, going up the elevator, going into the separate, what's it called? The secure housing unit, into a visiting room, which is, cinder blocks and metal grates and a big heavy metal door, um, impresses upon one's psyche what it would be like. And so it gives me a chance to contemplate that kind of deprivation, and it's utterly terrifying. Um, yeah, so there's that kind of level. It's kind of a split consciousness though, because I'm there and then I'm back immersed in my life.
Yeah.
Um, and I think maybe the biggest way it's impacted me is honestly just the gift of who Rajon is
Yeah.
and the way that he's chosen to live what is an impossible life, like that he is still fully alive
Yeah.
despite everything that they try to take from him. And if you were to have a conversation with him on the phone, um, his joy is bubbling over, his inquisitiveness, his curiosity, his ability to relate and be nourished by connection, I think is something that I can aspire to, but I don't even have as much. It's
Mm.
kind of like it's like what you're doing with your life in all the ways that you're creating and connecting, right? But you have all these resources and you have all this freedom and everything, but he's still doing that.
Yeah.
Like, um, and so I guess it's a reminder too of to embrace all that is available.
Yeah. He's doing that in the face of.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is the relationship, um, being the minister of record?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned like one, is it like an hour long
Mm. Mm-hmm.
time? And is there communication other than that once a month?
Mm-hmm.
Like what is, and you're speaking from your lived experience, so we're not
Sure.
talking about any other.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what your rhythm looks like with Rajon.
Yeah. So I visit once a month. I have a 4-hour visit. So I go usually 8 to noon on a Wednesday morning. I have to schedule it with the prison staff ahead of time. Um, and yeah, we talk. We talk the whole time. There's not, sometimes it's in the spiritual realm, sometimes it's psychological, a lot of times it's just what's going on. Um, and then we email when we're not visiting, or he can call. He has a certain number of minutes a month, and then it's also ridiculous, but he can call for 15 minutes and only 15 minutes at a time and never twice in a row, I think, and the phone shuts off after 15 minutes. Um, so
For all you corporate business people out there, start running your meetings with 15 minutes and it just drops.
yeah.
That would save
Yeah.
all of us from a lot of unnecessary.
Oh my gosh.
Let's
Yeah.
review. Let's say what we just said over again so we can.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Yeah. So it's absurd. But I was going to say something else about communication. Um,
well, I'm curious,
oh,
the email and the phone. Go ahead. You were gonna
well, I
go.
was going to say that it is a little different with his lawyers, which is good. I think they can talk for longer, and he can have virtual calls with them. So, he's got a legal team in the federal prosecutor's office who is continually working on his case, and appeals to overthrow the conviction and things.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so there's more communication there. Yeah.
And you mentioned his writing.
Hmm.
And I've had an opportunity to read some of it myself. Are there
Mm.
any restrictions on his ability for his writing to
Mm.
be out in the world?
Yeah. Um, that's a good question. I don't know from a prison standpoint what they would
Yeah,
say about that. I only know that he doesn't care. He's like, if I will not be silenced, basically, they've already taken so much.
yeah,
And so he works with a number of journalists, in addition to writing his own stuff and putting it out there on like solitary watch.
yeah.
And he has I don't know if his lawyer, had a website, especially when he was doing clemency, that showed his artwork and his writings. Um, so yeah, restrictions or not, he gets it out there.
I mean, it sounds like it's like he's found a purpose,
Hmm. Yeah.
within a
Yeah.
incredibly unimaginable
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think how many of us, to whatever degree it is, wished we could have had a do-over,
Oh, I know. Yeah.
right? And
Oh, yeah.
it's like, how many people take actions and where it's like, "Phew, glad I
Yeah.
got out of that one alive."
Oh my gosh.
You
Yeah.
know, and you didn't get
Mm-hmm.
caught or you didn't get this or that.
Right.
And it's that one action that doesn't define
Mm-hmm.
the entirety of a person, right? And
Yeah. And especially, I mean, in his case, I mean, it matters what happened.
yeah,
And he has certainly grappled with that for a long time. And I think he was 17, he was 18, 17, 18, um, caught up in something he didn't know was going to go the way it went.
yeah,
And he's a black man in the South who was tried by a jury of almost all white people, and the jury is the one that had to decide whether or not, so not just the sentencing, but the capital um, sentencing to say it had to meet certain criteria to um, be worthy of a death sentence. And they thought it did. And here was an 18-year-old, an accidental shooting. Um, he's on death row alongside Dylan Roof, intentionally shot a congregation of African Americans, right? Like this punishment was never the right punishment for what happened. Even in the justice system we have, it is an unjust punishment. And
right,
I have no doubt that he has, like, you can never make up for the life that was lost.
right.
And yet we don't have to lose Ray Jean's life as well, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's heavy. It's heavy stuff.
Um, are you limited to how many individuals
Hmm.
you or anyone else is there a limitation to how many individuals you can be minister of record
I
for?
don't know. Yeah, that's a good question.
It sounds like the commitment, uh, just for one, in terms of really kind of being able to be there and be
Mm-hmm.
fully present, knowing that you
Yeah.
recognize that they're in confinement.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
this opportunity to interact with another human
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
is really precious, right? It's really precious.
Yes, it is really precious. Yeah. Um, and Rajan is one of the most like well-resourced people on the row. He has family that comes to visit him. He has, like I said, journalists he's in touch with, professor friends, people who've put up art exhibits. And there are other people for sure on the row who, like, I think when Bill Breeden saw Chad the first time, he hadn't had a visit in 10 years or something. There's some folks who don't have visits, and certainly somebody being a minister of record for them would be a great gift. So yeah, if there's anybody out there within the vicinity and geographic realm who's interested in the work, they can be in touch with me, and
Okay.
I can put a word out to Rajon and see who might need somebody.
Got it.
Yeah, if they stick around. I mean, that's the other thing we're looking at is like if Rajon moves, they move him to Colorado. I'm
Right.
going to be looking for somebody in Colorado who can take on this role. I'll stay in connection, but he needs somebody who can
Oh,
visit him.
be there physically.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
definitely.
Mm. Laura, this has really been incredibly insightful and moving as well. I do like to kind of wrap it up with, are there any questions that you
Mm,
wished I would have asked or anything that you didn't get a chance to
mm.
share um, about
Yeah.
like to?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the maybe I don't know where listeners are living or
Yeah.
what they're paying attention to, and there's obviously plenty of bad things in the world to pay attention to, but I think wherever they are, having just beginning to understand, does your state execute people? Are there any executions coming up? Um, I think, especially in the political times that we're living in, with a more authoritarian kind of government who's willing to kind of prosecute and go after enemies, it's important to know if our states have the power to kill us or not. So I guess just a nod to some awareness there. And
And if they do, then is there a particular, path, or if someone's driven towards,
Mhm,
advocacy or
mhm,
action, is there a particular, if the answer is yes, is there sort of a
mhm. Um,
next step you might?
that's a good question. There are some local, like in Indiana, there's like a death penalty. I think actually this is national death penalty action network. I think in Indiana there's a local one, and I don't remember the name of it. But certainly one of the reasons to kind of have that on your radar is because governors can grant clemency, like, at the last hour in circumstances. And I'm going to botch this, but there was recently a case, I feel like it was Oklahoma, maybe, where a governor did do that, like granted mercy. So, here in Indiana, we have sort of Christian nationalists in our governor uh, and in our what's it called, the Micah Beckwith. Um, anyway, appealing to mercy as Christians in political power at the time when there are, you know, death sentences. Like if we don't have a merciful government, if we have a vindictive government willing to take people's lives, I think we need to be aware of that and advocate for mercy at the highest power, at the highest office that we
Yeah.
can. Yeah,
And, this is something that many times I think it's natural to be inspired to take action based on personal experience. I mean, that's something that I did with
of
Graham's
course.
Foundation, but
Yeah, yeah.
this is something that I think without personal experience, yourself or close family or friends.
No, 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 I
Yeah.
haven't. You mean in terms of being incarcerated or
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and sort of, really kind of
right.
in recognizing and understanding what it's like to be on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then wanting to make a difference. You just were led to that.
Yeah.
So other people could be. led as well, but they
Yeah.
just may not even be aware that there's
Yeah.
an opportunity to do like do something, be of service
Mm-hmm.
directly to a person that's in
Mm-hmm.
beyond just, I mean, yes, advocating for like clemency
Mm-hmm.
is important as well, but I mean, the work that you're doing, you are dealing with the human as they are
Mm-hmm.
today, and where tomorrow may go, we don't.
Right.
As Rajan talked about, feels like a political
Mm-hmm.
on, right, in a bigger game. And so the opportunity to be
Mm-hmm.
of support, um,
Yeah.
those individuals that
Yeah.
are going through that experience.
Yeah, and I'm sure you know from your work with Graham's Foundation or anything, the reason that um, I continue to be invested in this work is because it feeds me, right? Is because
That's
the
right.
people that I encounter at the jail every week offer me something that nourishes my soul so graciously. And Rajan as well, like every time I visit him, um and and so that's, yes, do it for the service and helping others, but also like it's a relationship that can change you, so I'm in it for that too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we will be sure and we've covered a lot of ground. We'll be sure and um, gather up some useful links for
Sure.
folks that have heard something that we talked about that they may want to
Yeah.
double click into, as we say in our digital life,
Mhm.
to find out more and ways to get involved. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me
Thank you.
today. I want to thank you for the fresh eggs every week. I want to thank you for the opportunity, as I joke, to do work days, although I don't know how much work I do. There's a lot of community. So just, hosting
Yeah.
community, and then obviously what we talked about today with your work for Women Writing for a Change and with Ray John. And again, congratulations
Thank you.
on your graduation. There'll be a lot of future
Mm-hmm.
clients that will be grateful for your work in the world as well.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. It was such a pleasure to have a full hour to just
Yes.
talk about this, and I appreciate you shining the light on this work.
Yeah, thanks.
Mhm.
Stories from the heart, stories honest and true, the one the